All right, so now that we kind of have hopefully a bit more understanding about what these elements are, I'd like to pull this all together to show you why we use these part bodies, at least one particular use case for it, and then include all the organizational topics that I've talked about in the last few videos. So for starters, I am going to make a circle. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to make a little disk, and I'm going to put a pattern on this ultimately of some little kind of a shape, right? So I've got this here, and then maybe on this face, I go here and I'm going to draw a little circle up here. I'll try to make this brief, but it has to be a little bit elaborate to make this make more sense. So I'll take this and I'll pad it up maybe 16, and then I'll put a little bit of a shape on the top of it. Again, like I said, it has to be a little bit elaborate. So watch this. I'm going to make a circle over here, and then I'm going to constrain this. Sorry, that's not what I want to do. I want to pick it like this. Well, I guess that would have been the same. I'm going to pick this edge right here, right click. You see it made a projection already, and I'm going to say it is concentric to it. So that's a neat way to do that, and I'm not going to dimension it. I just want to have it like that. Then I'll pad this up, maybe 10, and then maybe I'll add a fillet to this. Maybe top and bottom here. And what do we add here? How about 3? Okay, so we have this weird little feature here. Now what I want is I want to add this fillet down here. I want to add kind of a big curvy fillet here. So I go there, and then I hit this, and I bring this out. And maybe I should have kept it away from the edge. I think I could probably make 5 work. Yeah, it's getting close to the edge. So let's say I did this. Now understand, this is kind of a stretch to describe a reason why we do bodies and the Booleans and the other stuff that we talked about. What if I looked at this and I said, well, this is great, but I didn't want this fillet to swoop out. Well, I do want it to swoop out just like this, but I want this down inside the part more. Like I want it cut right through here. So see if you can see what I'm talking about here. I don't want to just make a smaller fillet. I want it to kind of come down and swoop like this, just begin to swoop and then completely stop right there. But I can't do that exactly with this fillet, right? And even if there is, maybe a couple magic buttons that I can use to get it to happen, just follow me with this. This feature right here, kind of what I want to do is take this whole element, this one, and this one, and I want to take all this stuff and just drop it down inside this part a little bit. I just want to pull it down into it to where I only have this part exposed. Well, I can't do it, at least let's say, okay? So what do I do with this? Well, what I need to do is I need to make this as a separate feature, and I need to make it on a plane that's somewhere down in here. I have to do some other work with this down here somewhere to get this to build up. I can't do it with this part being right here, because if I put a plane right through here, I am going to put a plane in here, but if I just started adding pads onto this plane, it's going to join it with this block. Okay, and I don't want that to happen, so you might see where I'm going with this. So I'll go here, I'll open this up, and I'm going to shift select all that and hit delete. It's a little bit easier than hitting undo a whole bunch of times. Okay, so now I'm going to start making that feature. So here's the thing that you might have figured I was going to do. I'm going to make that as a separate body. Okay, now from what we learned, if I'm going to make that as a separate body, that separate body is going to get joined or cut out or something with this, probably this body right here at some point in time. Okay, this part body right now, this body is inside of part body. That's not where it belongs if I'm going to do Boolean operations. This needs to be somewhere not in part body, because part body is the last folder that we put everything into. So I need to delete this and make a new body and put it into it. However, there is a little trick. So this is a little bit of a deviation from the lesson plan, but just watch this. So I add in a body, okay? And I'm going to call this, actually I'm not going to call it anything right now. I'm going to hit close. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take body 2, right click on it, go down to object here and say change part body. What this is going to do, which really should be swap for part body, it's going to take this new body that I added here and it's going to make it the part body. So watch. Say okay to that. And now it's just there. So the blank element, there's nothing in it, that's why I didn't put anything inside of it yet, is now known as part body, and then this pad got moved out and now it's body 1. Okay, so that's kind of a neat trick. If you find yourself going down a path designing a part and then all of a sudden you realize you need to do a Boolean operation but everything's built in part body, so you can kick it out that way into its own separate body. I'm going to go here and I'm going to name this one. Notice I went to feature properties, not that mechanical section there. I'm going to call this base. And I should have gave it a color because it's going to be helpful as usual. We'll give it this light yellow color. How about that? Yay. Okay, now I need to make a new body. And again, I prefer here, but it's how many clicks is that, you know, versus just, well, I don't know. It's still easier than right-click properties, change the name. So this one is going to be called, how about post? Because that's kind of what that is. So now I have a new body called post. Make sure it's underlined so it's defined in work object, and I'm going to start making that feature. However, the thing I do not want to do, pulling a whole lot of stuff together, I don't want to make links between bodies. I do not believe I mentioned that before, but for example, I do not want to put a sketch on the face of this because that now links this body to that body, and it could be very detrimental to your Boolean operations later. So I want to keep everything isolated. So I want to make the sketch on a plane. It would be okay to make it on that plane, but I need a plane that's somewhere here in the middle. So I need to make a new plane. If I make a new plane right now, so here's a new plane. Let me just show you this so you can see. So I hit new plane, it's going to add a new plane. You see that right up there. This plane is going to be added into this part body. I don't think that's a good idea because when you make a plane, it might be that you want to use that plane for another part body or with another part body. Okay, so what did we learn in the last video? If I want to make something that's outside of the timeline and also, I didn't mention this exactly, but it's usable by all part bodies, doesn't matter, then you want to make a geometrical set. So I come down here and I make a geometrical set, and I could call this references. Then we can get in here and we'll get that plane right there. Oops, I need to go from there. So that's offset. And how far up do we want this? Well, I want that feature to be somewhere down in here. But know that it's easy enough to just move this plane later. So if it's not quite the look I want, I can nudge it around. All right, so I'm going to go with 5 for right now. I hit OK. And as usual, expand this open. You can see that that plane is there. So plane 1 can be used by any part body. Great. So now I'll come over here to post, to the post, and I'll define that in work object. And then I will go make a sketch on this plane right here. And I think I might be upside down. Well, I don't think it'll matter in this case. So bring this down a little bit. I'll go ahead and snap to this line and I'll make it about so big. Exit out. Yeah, or Z's up. Okay, that's okay. So go ahead and pad this up now. That's sketch. Now look at it, you see? So it's coming up here. It might have been 10 before, but we have to allow for that extra 15. Yeah, but we might nudge this around, but who cares? I'm going to, yeah, that seems okay. So look at this. Just like we saw before, it's a different body. It's not connected. It's not joined together with the yellow piece. Great. So now I can come on here, and I could make this a circle again. Make a circle on there again. I'll make it a little bit bigger. I'll do the same thing that I did before. I will click on here, catch that, and catch that edge. It will automatically make a projection. Right click and make it concentric, and then you could dimension it if you like. I'm not going to worry about it. Now exit out of here, and then I'll pad this up 8, yeah, and then we'll throw some fillets on here. Same story that I did before. Oops, It doesn't really matter in that case, but I wanted to get each element separately if you caught what just happened there. Okay, so there's my shape. I'm going to grab a fillet right here because it's just bugging me. I get right here, and I'm going to hit OK. I'll get a nice little fillet right there. That makes me happier. And now what am I going to do about this? So since I don't have an edge there, how am I going to get a fillet on this? So you kind of have to do a couple tricks here to get this to work out, but ultimately remember that this is just an exercise to show why we use the Boolean operations. And actually tricks are a valid thing. So I'm going to take this base, I'm going to hide it temporarily so I can see this. What I need to do to put a nice fillet on here that kind of, you know, wraps up here, I need to have some kind of an edge or a corner to put a fillet on, just like I did when it was connected to the yellow part. So I'm going to go onto this plane right here, and I'm going to make a circle. Make it so big, and kind of doesn't really matter at this point. And we'll catch this here. We'll make that concentric. Exit out of here, and then I need to pat it just a tiny little bit, just so it has a surface there. Maybe one. Doesn't matter if it's up or down because it's buried inside the part, you see? And so then now what I can do is I can add my edge fillet right in here. By the way, when I said it doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how extra big you make it, but you don't want to make it extra small because I want to be able to put this edge fillet right here in this corner, which I can't seem to get a hold of. There we go. And I want this to slope up. Now, it's a good opportunity to reflect back on a different item here, field that we've used before, edge to keep. So this 3 millimeter, if it makes to this edge, you know, that's going to work out just fine. If I go 6, then that might be a little bit too much, and I'm going to get a problem right here. So what you would do is you'd say edge to keep, which in this particular circumstance is going to be a good thing because it'll push all this excess that's hanging out right here up here. It creates kind of a ramp. So watch this. So it puts a slope on it. So watch, if I make this a little bit more extreme, maybe 12 might work. Tab out of here, and I'll hit preview, and you see how it just keeps pushing it up in more of a slope like that, and that's pretty nice. I could probably even go 16. Preview. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so it's a real neat feature to use the edge to keep. I like it a lot. So now we have that great looking shape, and if I bring back the base, unhide it, now you see this? I get this slope that goes like this, and so we couldn't do this previously with the edge fillet, right? How do I do this kind of slope right there with the edge fillet? I can't do it. So now that that looks good, if I thought, by the way, let's go back to what I was talking about before. If I thought this was a little bit, you know, too far down, then I could go find this plane right here that's over here. I could double click on that, and I could say, you know what, I don't want it 5 from the bottom, maybe I want it 6 from the bottom. Hit OK, and then that's going to scooch up a little bit, and then I could go, yeah, that's what I want, right? Now I will go to the post here, and I will make it, let's go with magenta this time. How about that? Great. Now, before I finish this, I'm going to make a circular pattern with this. I'm going to have that current solid. So this is a thing I'd like to show you. Remember how we've done this before? Possibly somewhere along the way with this in mirror, it says current solid. And every time we're like, oh, it says current solid, it tries to pattern the whole thing. I don't want that. I want to pick just this thing. So out of habit, you might come over here and go, yeah, I need this, 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 and you try to pick everything. This, because it's all in one body, that is that post, this is the way that you're classically supposed to use this, and this is why it says current solid, because it's not the whole thing, including the yellow block and the magenta block. It's just the magenta. It's just the post. Okay? So you make a part body, get it shaped the way you like it with all the features, and then you would pattern that body. Okay? Hopefully that's insightful. So now I am going to make a complete crown out of this. And I want to make this a whole bunch, maybe 12 of these. And there's going to be a little problem here in a second. It's not exactly a problem, but I'm going to do an extra thing with this just to show you more about our tools. I need a reference element to spin this around. And usually what we've been doing is just pick like something like this cylinder, and it's going to pattern around it. That seems like it would work fine, and it probably would work fine. But what I just did is I made a connection, a link between this purple one and the yellow block. And right now, that's something I do not want to do. I do not want to make that connection. So what I need to do is I need to pause this. Okay, I really don't. I could pick the z-axis in here. I could go find the z-axis that comes up here, but it's a good reason to talk more about the geometrical sets. I need something to spin this around that is not a part of this. So I'm going to go over here to reference elements, and I know that this seems like a little bit of a diversion, so bear with me, pause, watch the video again if needed. I'm going to go into reference elements, and how I do this, you don't have to worry about yet. This is just, again, it's a little bit of an insight into some of the stuff we'll be doing in surface design and, well, tools that you should be familiar with. So I'm going to make a line that just sticks straight up here, but I'm not going to make a sketch. In order to do this, I need a point. So I'm going to make a point and a line. So down here, reference elements. We made planes just a second ago, right? So now I got points and lines. So watch this. I'll hit a point, and I have several different types, but I'm going to leave it right here at coordinates. It's going to go at 0, 0, 0, right there in the center. So if I hit OK, now right there in the center, I have a point. And over here, it says point, 1. There you go. It's very common to start naming these things, like center point. I'm not going to do that right now. Now I'm going to pick line, and if I had multiple points, I could do a point-to-point line. Got a whole bunch of other ones here, but I want a point and a direction. Okay. So it's going to make a line from a point, and then I'm going to use a plane, actually, to tell me the direction. So I pick this point right there. If you can't get it, come over here to the tree and pick it. Now for the direction, this one is a little bit strange, but do you see this flat plane right there? I'll click it and see how it goes up there. The flat plane is built on two axes, like the X and the Y. You can use a plane as a direction because the axes that would go through that plane, the z-axis, is the direction. So think about that for a minute. We use this all the time. So I'm going to make this extra long. I'm going to say 100, and I'm going to mirror it in both directions and hit OK. So now I've got this feature, another feature in the geometrical set that we created called references that can be used by anything. So ponder this. If I wanted to make more part bodies that were, other different things I was going to pattern, and other little holes I was going to cut into this part, maybe holes I was going to cut into another, I'm going to pattern all of these things around. I now have one common center point, center line here, that they all revolve around. And then what's more interesting is if I ever needed to move everything over, that point that is in the center right here, if I move this point over maybe 50 millimeters, then that line and everything that is going around that line is going to follow along with it. Okay, we'll undo that. Great. Now, I also like doing this. I know that this is a little bit of a tangent here, but I like doing this because it forces you to kind of get confused a little bit and have to pay attention to where we're at, because now I want to go back here to the purple stuff, the magenta stuff, but that's the post body, and I'm currently defining the references in work object. So I have to come up here and define this in work object. Okay. If you define the main body here in work object, the next thing will be added to the bottom of the tree. Okay. You don't have to come down here and define that in work object, but you can. It's the same thing. Now I can do my pattern. So I go down here to circular pattern, current solid. Yes, the whole thing, please. What I want to spin it around, that line, complete crown. Complete crown means the whole 360 degrees evenly, and maybe we'll make this 16 of them, and we'll tab away. Is that too many? That's a lot. We'll hit OK. And there's all our little guys all around here. All of these are still in that body called post. Okay, it's not a whole bunch of separate bodies. It's just this one body right here called post. Now to finish this all off, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to our Boolean operations, and just for clarity, I'm going to close all this stuff up to make it easier to see, because I don't want you to have to see right now everything's inside. I want you to just understand that what we're going to do is we're going to take post and we're going to join it to base, but we're going to do it in proper fashion. So I'm going to take base and I'm going to add it into part body first. Remember, this is our end body where everything goes. And then I'm going to add post into the part body. They will get joined together and they will be both separate elements underneath part body. Okay. Now I'm going to hide reference elements because that's another thing that's pretty common to do. Get it out of the way. Then I will go to base right here and I'm going to add base to part body. Hit OK. Now that one is underneath there. Add, it's an add operation. And what did you add? I added base. I added base to part body. Okay. Now I'm going to go down here and, or over there on the other side. I'm going to add also, I don't want to remove, I want to add all these guys to part body. Hit OK. And now they're all joined together, you see. And now I have that look that I wanted to have. So this is a long journey to get here, but hopefully that makes sense in one of the most simplest of ways to show you why you might want to go to this extravagant effort, to get a shape that you want. I want this or need this to look just this way, and I couldn't figure out how to do it any other way than this. You see? And now that they're joined, you could go by here and you could fillet all these. It would be kind of a pain to go around and catch every single one, but now that it's there, if I wanted to add a 1 millimeter fillet, I could do that. Okay. As a last little note with this, that ends up in the timeline here after all the adds. This one here is not inside of one part body. It's not inside the other one. The only place that edge fillet could be is in the place where you've welded the two together. It has to fall after the two are together for that in order to even make that exist. All right, please, if that doesn't make sense, watch them again, try it again, practice, and get used to this because it's a really important concept in CATIA.